Color grading, let me color correction is a science. How to adjust the shot in a way that all the white balance, luminance, saturation, everything would be quite correct. Color grading is adding values to the shots. Let's have a look at this demo reel by Tyler Jones. He's a very nice color grading artist. So as you see, based on different moods, he's adding different skin tones, different color grading, different. So this is a complementary harmony, different harmonies, and so he is helping the storytelling actually. So you can see that this type of color, adding this type of color into the shot makes the story quite different. So look at her skin tone here, and then later on when she gets sick, so the skin tone has changed, is going to change. So you can see here that these two color, look at her skin tone here, it's pale, and look at how he's adding these blues and greens and teal all around, and then increasing the orange on her face. So it becomes a complementary harmony. Here it's like a analogous harmony. So color grading is all about adding some artistic values to your movie. It's an art form. Color correction is a science, but color grading is an art form. So before knowledge of, before knowing new tools like DAVINCI Resolve that we are going to discuss about today, you have to have that knowledge. If you remember, we talked about different harmonies, different color values and everything in one of our sessions. You can find it if you remember. So we talked about digital design colors. We talked about different harmonies, different color values, how to use them. So if you just forget that, just go and review that again. So we talked about color theories and harmonies and different stuff like that. Okay. Now you have an edit. You have an edit line. If you remember, we had such an editing line. We did some editing, and I want to send my editing from Premiere to DaVinci Resolve. What is DaVinci Resolve? DaVinci Resolve. It's a free piece of software. It's by free. It doesn't mean it sucks. It's an industry standard piece of software. So color grading software artists like Tyler Jones, the guy that you saw his demo reel, this guy, he is also using DaVinci Resolve for color grading. So this is his website, Grade KC. So it's a professional piece of software, and this happily this company has a different type of marketing strategy. They buy softwares and they release them as free. Why? Because later on you may end up buying their cameras that has a lot of compatibility with these piece of softwares. So you just go to the website, press download, and get the Mac or Windows version based on your laptop or computer, and then just register your name and stuff, and then get it installed. Download it and get it installed. So it's a very system hardware resource hungry piece of software, so it's better that you have a good computer to be able to use it. Let me open that. This is Resolve. I want to move the project from my editing project from Premiere to DaVinci Resolve. So how to do that? It's simple. First of all, clean your editing timeline. So if this is your editing timeline, and if you sometimes you have clips all around in different layers, like that, just merge them all into one track in one layer. If you have adjustment layers on top of them, remove that. You're gonna add some color grading later on. If you don't need the sound, just remove it. I'm fine with the sound and this title at the beginning. We won't be able to see them in the DaVinci Resolve, but it's fine. So you just have to go File, Export, and Final Cut Pro XML. It doesn't mean that I am going to use Final Cut Pro. I am just using this XML format as a transition platform for moving my editing from Premiere to DaVinci Resolve. So I just say XML for grading and save it. Okay. And in DaVinci Resolve, I make a new project. Let's call it, I don't know, grading project. Create, double click, and well, it has 4 different environments. Media environment that we are now on it, editing environment, color, grading, and deliver. Media is just a browser. Here is not, you're not still in the program. This part is just a file browser. So if you are on a budget, if you don't have enough budget to buy an editing software like Premiere or Final Cut Pro, then this is a very nice solution to do your editing inside as well. So DaVinci Resolve is a NLE, nonlinear editing solution as well. So you can install it and use it for editing quite properly. So you can browse your files here. So I am going to add some new other files. I just have copied some files in your course material, and they are called raw footage. And these are some raw movies, raw uncompressed movies that are perfect for grading. And they are shot on Blackmagic Design. Blackmagic Design, well, the same company that made, that owns DaVinci Resolve. This company, Blackmagic Design, they are making amazing cameras as well. That's the whole point of selling these, releasing this software as free, so you can go and buy their cameras. These cameras, we have this Blackmagic, this one. We have this one at digital design department. Later on in maybe your third year, if you want to make something really serious, this is a very good camera to borrow, but not from CISO, from the faculty itself. What's the point of having a camera that records in RAW format? Let me import a RAW format. This is me on desktop. Where's the desktop? Raw footage. Shot 1. I just drag and drop into my shot 3, 4, and 5. If you have a look at these images, you can see that they look really flat, and it seems that they are really pale and flat. And the point of shooting a movie in RAW format is that to gather as much color data as possible. So it's all about, let me open a, sorry. It's all about, so with your normal cameras, your Canon cameras, your Sony cameras, most of the time you just record compressed videos. What does it mean? It means that the camera is compressing and killing an immense amount of color data in order to be able to minimize the bandwidth, the recording bandwidth, to be able to record that amount of data on your drive, on your memory. So imagine that you have a 16 gigabyte memory SD card in your camera. For in that 16 gigabyte you can record, let's say, 8 hours of the movie, a compressed movie. But if it would be RAW format, you won't be able to record 8 hours. You probably would be able to record just half an hour. So the raw data is a lot of data, and it's not for family photos, family movies, or just birthday movies. It's just for professional working. I got a good news for you. So if you think that it's not for recording a RAW format, well, most of the professional cameras, like, so here, when you right click here, let's make a timeline, and you can see that every camera, every professional camera, like Arri Alexa, Blackmagic, Sony, Canon, every one of them has a log format. That log format means is related to the RAW format, is another term for calling a RAW format. So, do I need a really professional camera like Alexa or Blackmagic design for shooting RAW format? No. If you download a Magic Lantern firmware, these guys are amazing. You know, they just it's like that. Professional cameras like Canon cameras, they have a professional set of cameras that are really expensive for shooting RAW movies, and consumer cameras like most of the cameras that you have. Actually, most of the features on those consumer cameras are similar to those professional, and they are capable of recording RAW format, but they are turned off. They are switched off. So these guys could figure out how to turn them on and switch them on and use it for, so you can, now you can use a normal Canon 5D Mark II or Mark III if you have, or even 880D, 60D, 700D, these type of cameras for recording RAW format. So if you want to try that, just go for and install it. It's a very nice hack to bring up some RAW recording format features. Okay, so editing features. Before bringing our editing from Premiere, let's review some editing features in DaVinci Resolve. So the same way as Premiere, but just drag and drop one of your clips, one of your movies into the editing timeline. I am in editing environment now. You can start, you can make it, you will make a timeline. And everything is similar to all your editing programs. You got a source monitor, you can say I, O to select an area, and you can drag and drop that into your timeline. Or probably if, let's say I got this movie here and I want to add this part somewhere in between. So you can drag and drop onto the program window. So you can insert, overwrite, replace, fill to fill, replace, place on top. Let's say I'm gonna place it on top. So you got lots of different options out there by just one drag and drop. And you have all the sound and stuff all around. You can select, cut your movies, or do the trim editing. So they are all available for you. And then when your editing is all done, you go for the color grading. Okay, I am going to use them later on, so I delete these. I am going to file import XML. Oh, sorry, export, not export. Import XML. And I'm going to import what I made XML for grading. Okay, before importing anything into the DaVinci Resolve, if you are very sensitive about the settings like me, there's a cog here, down below here. Just click on that and just adjust the setting of your movie. So before making any timeline, I am going to delete this timeline. So you can adjust the settings of your camera, of your editing or color grading. Here it's HD, 4K, 2K, whatever it is. Frame rates and everything should be set up here. I wanted to change this frame rate, but because I made a timeline before, so I cannot do that. That's why I need to fix the timeline here. So that's a 24 frames per second timeline. I make another timeline. Okay, I make a sequence here, a 24 frames per second, just a true 24 frames, and I copy all of them, paste it here, and export XML again. Okay, let's import that into DaVinci Resolve and then start grading. Import XML. Okay, no, it still says it's 23,979, so I have to fix it here. Just have to make sure that it is 24 frames per second. So export. So you will simply import your Premiere project here. There's a couple of sounds missing, sounds and timeline. That's fine because we're not going to use sounds or this. You can get rid of them. This. So your editing timeline is here now inside DaVinci. So you can start working on them. I'm gonna bring these shots as well because they are raw format shots, so they are much easier to handle than the normal shot in terms of color grading. So I'm going to use, okay. Let's say your editing is done. You still have the chance of fixing your editing inside DaVinci Resolve. Then when everything is quite done, you can switch to the color grading. This is the beauty of DaVinci Resolve. This is why people go and use it, or they used to buy this program. Still, if you want to buy, there's a professional version of DaVinci Resolve. It's called DaVinci Resolve Studio, which has just few features like noise removal or 3D stereoscopic type of filmmaking, but everything else is quite identical. So the environment is quite simple. This is your monitor. This is the brain of the program where you add different nodes. For every action you add a node. This is where you save your styles, your galleries. So if you do lots of different type of color grading, you can save them there and reuse them. And here are your color grading panels. So what are the procedures in your color grading? First, there is corrections. Actually, you have to just adjust some contrast, saturation, white balance, etc. This is the scientific part of it. It's all about correcting the shot, not grading. And then you go for key elements. Most important key elements in your shot is skin tone. And then we have to do some color grading. Here comes the you are going to add a stylization, to add some stylized look to your shot. Sometimes you do some matching colors of different shots, and sometimes you add depth by color grading, by adding some shadows somewhere, making some places darker, some places brighter, and at the end you have to do some quality controls. So if your movie is going to be broadcasted, so you have to have an eye on luminance and some saturation levels and stuff like that. So let's do it one by one. So let's start with a primary color grading. Your main tool here is vector scope. So when you click on scopes, you got all the vector scope available here. You can by clicking on that, you can separate them from the main window and push it to another window. I normally use this to make this one as no, not parade. I just make this one vector scope and this one parade. Okay, so here I can see that the image is so desaturated because all the colors are compressed to the center. And here you can see that there's a slight, we have slightly, there's a color balance issue in this shot. We are at the correction stage, so we have slightly more red in this shot. You can see that the level of the red is slightly higher than the level of the blue. So let's fix the shot first and then go for the color grading. So I just switch to these bars, grading bars, and I am going to let's keep here. I am in color wheels, and then I switch to primary bars, and then you can adjust the gain. I just want to dim down the red slightly, and now green is too much. I just dim down the green as well, so they are kind of in the same level. So I can make sure that this is a right and correct white balance. Now you can see that all the colors are pushed down here. Don't worry. So we can add some contrast and some saturation. Okay, this is a good starting point. I close these scopes and I turn this part to the scopes so we would be able to see everything quite clearly. I go back to the color wheels. Okay, we have two shortcuts, two very important shortcuts, Alt S and Alt L. Alt S for adding serial node, Alt S for adding a layer node. Okay, before starting doing some color grading, I am going to go for the next step, which is the skin tone. Key elements. Here the key element is skin tone. She looks very pale. It's not a correct skin tone. So let's adjust the skin tone. You have color wheels here. If you have seen let me show you something. Black Magic Design. If you have seen color grading panels like this is a color grading surface panel. It's it's a huge piece of actually it's just a keyboard. It's a fancy keyboard that you have to pay $30,000 to buy that. Well, there are some cheap versions as well, but it's nothing more than these wheels here, down here, and a couple of buttons that you can customize them to work with the software quite faster. So it's not something that if you don't pay that money to buy that, you would lose something. It just gives you some speed while you're working. So let's we have color wheels. They are our main tools for color grading. So lift, gamma, gain are just fancy names for shadows, midtones, highlights. I just move the midtones to the orange a bit till I get a kind of desired, maybe some highlights. Okay, this is kind of a proper skin tone. Okay, so Next step, ticked. Now it's time for color grading. Color grading, as I told you, is an art. It means that you as an artist should decide about some stuff that painters do. So that's why you have to go to this website, color.adobe.com. Here you have lots of different color schemes. Let's say you are working on a comedy movie and people have shared different color palettes, so you can go through and use their suggestions, or you can explore your own world. So you just need to find your color scheme. So the skin tone here looks like this. So if this is my skin tone, and if I'm going to make a complementary harmony, you remember harmonies? Analogous, monochromic, chromatic, triadic or triangle harmony, complementary, compound, and shades. So if this is your skin color, then the complementary color is teal, or some sort of cyan and blue. And you will later on will figure out that this is a very famous color grading palette, orange and teal. You just have to Google orange teal color grading, and you will see that lots of movies all around, blockbusters, they love this color palette. So they do orange and teal. Why? Because there's orange on the skin and teal all around, so it looks very appealing. So the skin tone will pop out. So orange and teal. Here again, here again. So this is a very famous complementary color scheme. So I'm going to use that. So here we have orange on her face, but there's no teal all around. So what I'm going to do, Alt S for adding a new serial node, and Alt L for adding a layer node. In top layer, I'm going to exclude her skin. So let me just turn off this clips view and timeline and gallery, just to make sure that we see more. Okay, I go to this droplet. There's a fancy name for that, qualifier. I just drag onto her skin. What happens is that if I exclude that, if you click on this magic wand on top of, so you can see that we are going to select her skin, and it's alright. Let's add some blur to that, and I don't want her hair to be selected. That's why I go to the masking and make a mask around her face, and then I add some, I'm feather out the mask, and then this is okay. The mask is selected, and I can add some more orange to the skin. Let's say some extreme orange, but if she moves, the mask is not moving with her. So what should I do? So it's simple. DaVinci Resolve has a very powerful tracking panel. So I go to the tracking and I set track, and it tracks her face. So you can simply select eyes, face. I'm gonna select her lips as well. And then, so the mask is following her face now. That's too much. Let's make it less. More saturated colors on face. Just a little bit. That's all right. Okay. Now, what about the background? For the background, what I do, I go to the till. Okay, let's do that this way, because I am not going to affect her face. So I just add another mask here. If you turn this on, you can see that what I'm doing. Sorry. Okay. I just select her face and just reverse the mask. So you can see one layer is for the background, one layer for the face. So the background is going to be more bluish. And the foreground is just a face. So the combination let's turn this off, and you can see that the combination is kind of okay at the moment, but it's too harsh. So let's decrease that one. Let's filter out that, and let's make this area a bit larger. Okay, here I am going to add some teal to the shadows as well. Okay, so what about selecting her lips, and I Alt L add another layer. I just use this qualifier, drag here. As you can see, all the red has been selected, but I need just this area. So I add another mask just around her lips, filter out, and then as you can see, I can make it more red. I add some red to the lips. Okay, Alt Control D to turn off a node to see what happens. Alt D to turn all the nodes. So before, after, before, after. Okay, actually, so I have, so we have to just track the face and the lips, the masks again. So what I did, I reinforced that harmony into the shot again. Whoa, what happened? Okay. We did some color grading now. Okay, so we had a harmony in mind, and we just made it. Okay, some So how to apply the same effects to other shots? So so we have some similar shots here. I want to have this grading that I did here onto this shot again. So it's simple. Select the target and middle click on the source. Done. As simple as that, you can transfer a grade to another shot. But what about matching colors? Imagine that you are going to match these two together, but they are not matched. So you just need to double click on, you have to make a gallery. So imagine that I'm going to match this interior with this exterior. So let's grab a still here and go there and just double click, and you can see them next to each other. And now you can adjust and make them look like each other more. So you can have a look at the skin tones and stuff and match, kind of matching these two shots together. It's pretty simple. What about adding depth? That's a very long discussion. How to add depth? You have to do layers of. Let me turn this off. Here, this shot doesn't have enough depth in it. So you have to make them layers by layers and make this to pop out based on your approach to adding depth. So the simple answer is just to make layers of masks and try to make some parts of your image darker, some parts brighter, and just this way you can add depth. At the end, just make sure to check all the if you remember our discussion about legality of the shots. So make sure that you don't go above the vector scope, you don't go above 1023 or below 0. So make sure that your saturations and luminance are all set. And then when you're all ready, then you can go to deliver, and you can render everything in one single clip or one individual clip for every shot. There's a couple of presets like YouTube, Vimeo, I don't know, Final Cut Pro, Premiere Pro, or you can adjust your format and codec and resolution, and then press render, and then starts. It's quite similar to After Effects. So you just press start render, and it starts rendering the whole timeline, and you will have the color grading ready. Okay,